So today we're looking at another rather unusual military surplus firearm that came into my collection. On top of that, this is actually available on the primary market right now. So if you're interested, this is something that you could potentially own today, at least at the time of this recording. 5 years from now, who knows? This, of course, as the title states, is an Israeli Kareen pistol. Odds are you've already deduced this is just a high power clone. Not 100% sure as to the exact backstory on these pistols. There's a couple of different versions. One suggests that these are entirely actually made in Hungary and they're only assembled and remarked in Israel. Others suggest that it's kind of a mix of Israeli produced and Hungarian produced parts, and as kind of time went on, as they kind of spun up production, the proportion of Hungarian parts actually got to be less and less. So I guess suffice it to say that these are probably at least partially Hungarian-made high powers. The Israelis seem to like the high powers. They use them from a variety of different sources, and so this is just another one of those. Now, there are actually three versions of the Kareen high power. There's Marks 1, 2, and 3. This, of course, is a Mark 1. Mark 1s are pretty much, they don't deviate from the high power design pretty much in any significant way. They've got, a magazine disconnect like we see here. By the way, yes, it is unloaded, but it's a single action pistol as well. Pretty much, I think even the parts will interchange. Certainly the magazines will. I've read somewhere that pretty much most of the parts should too. Can't vouch for literally 100% of them, but in any case, with your Marks 2s and 3s, they start to deviate from the design. They have a squared off trigger guard with a finger groove, different finish, different grips, improved sights. I believe they gave them ambi safeties as well. And there's some kind of ambiguity as to who produced the Mark II and 3, whether they're partially Bulgarian Arcus pistols or what have you. But in any case, we're looking at the Mark I, of course. That's what Atlantic Firearms happens to have in stock at the moment. In terms of markings, there's nothing terribly interesting about these either. So, for example, on this side, we have Kareen Israel on the slide. Hopefully that shows up reasonably well on camera. We have a serial number on the slide and on the barrel seen here. And on the frame, it is right here on kind of the front strap of the grip. On the other side, we have Israel AA Limited. I'm assuming AA is arms and ammunition, but not really 100% sure. Our import mark is right here on the bottom of the trigger guard. These are imported by Century. So yeah, I guess that's relatively discreet. I've seen better, I've seen worse. But not too bad. That's really about it. We do have a Kareen here on these grips, actually only on this side. These grips are, they feel like they're probably relatively cheap, but probably wouldn't replace them just because they have the branding on it, which kind of makes it all matching, sort of, again. So the serial numbers on the slide, the barrel, and the frame do all match. So you could argue this is probably an all matching pistol. I don't think too many of the smaller internal parts were serialized as far as I could tell. I've taken this thing apart. It's actually really clean. It has a decent bore. The only thing that I think is probably not original is this magazine. It's actually a Mk1 magazine made in Italy, but it's got this Pachmeyer rubber pad, rather crudely, I might add, glued on. You often see these sorts of modifications on Israeli pistols. Not that I've seen an absolute I've seen them, a lot of them for sale. I actually haven't owned too many. I'm not extremely into Israeli firearms. I just kind of like things that are somewhat unusual, maybe that not everyone has. And this, I thought, kind of fit the bill. But in any case, presumably the original magazine, I'm assuming, got lost at some point and replaced with an aftermarket one. But nonetheless, in terms of condition, these were advertised as being in good to very good condition, and I would say this actually pretty comfortably fits into that. The bore, I think I've mentioned, but if I haven't, is actually shiny. It looks great. We do see some spots of finish loss. We can see, for example, on the corners. We do have some wear, but overall, really nothing to complain about. The condition is as advertised. There's no unpleasant surprises. I was kind of thinking of peeling off this little rubber pad thing, but it's, because it is kind of part of its history. Maybe I figured I shouldn't. I'll just order some additional magazines since this does use standard high power magazines. Overall, I'm reasonably pleased with this purchase. Do I recommend that you get one? Well, I think the answer, of course, like so many other things in life, is it depends. If you just want a high power, any high power, and you just like the design, you want the experience of shooting, owning a high power, etc., you don't really care about it having any sort of, military or police provenance or anything like that, there are probably more affordable options than this out there. I know, for example, Girsan from Turkey, they have new production ones that are going to be slightly cheaper. You might save $100, $80, kind of give or take, depending on where you're shopping. And it'll be brand new, so you'll have some sort of warranty coverage. Although Girsan, I believe their warranty work is through EAA, which, from what I understand, doesn't have the best reputation as far as customer service and warranty coverage, but it's going to be something better than used surplus. So if that's what you're after, there are probably cheaper choices. Now, if you do care about something that kind of has a bit of a military or police history, and it's something kind of unusual, something that again not everybody else has, I don't see why not. Now, if you're like particularly into Israeli firearms, and like I said, it's not really been the focus of my collection, but if it has been for yours, this is one of those things that's relatively uncommon. This isn't like one of those Jericho pistols that everybody and their mother seems to have at some point. These do come in from time to time, but really relatively rarely compared to some of the other options. So if you're into that sort of thing, I think that certainly makes a lot of sense to look into it. Condition-wise, like I said, very little to complain about. I think that the good to very good designation, again, fits very, very well. As far as I can tell, these are relatively decently made. They're not, not the smoothest, but, not terrible either by any means, for a military or a police surplus. I don't know which actually specifically. But that's kind of my brief overview of one of these. I would say definitely take a look if you're interested. That's about all I can say, I suppose. So thank you for watching, of course, as always.